Listen, I know a trick by which you can get anything you want by paying just 10 to 20% of the price. A $700 phone for $70? A $200 running shoes for just $40? Or how about that $10,000 cosmetic surgery for just $1,000? Sounds too good to be true? Enter Buy Now, Pay Later or BNPL. BNPL is an installment loan offer that lets the customer buy anything now and pay the price over several installments. Most of the times, there is no interest charged. And there is no hard credit check or bureau reporting either. Again, sounds like an excellent deal for the consumer, right? Wrong. BNPL's convenience can be thought of in a similar way how cigarette and alcohol products are advertised near schools. Theoretically convenient, but morally or even medically right? No. So if you have seen Buy Now, Pay Later offers during checkout on your favorite retailer's websites, but don't really understand what they are, hang on, as I'm going to explain exactly how they work. But then we'll also talk about the potential pitfalls. Finally, we'll also discuss about how you can take advantage of BNPL through smart and disciplined moves. So let's start with Chapter 1. Understand Buy Now, Pay Later. So like its name suggests, Buy Now, Pay Later lets you buy something now without paying the full price and then pay the price over a period of time, usually in installments. Say you're buying a $1,000 bed. With BNPL, you may be able to split this $1,000 payments over 10 installments. The first installment of $100 would be due right at checkout, and the next 9 installments may be due over the next 9 months or 5 months, depending upon what plan you choose. And signing up is pretty easy. You either sign up at checkout, use a service that you might already have signed up for. It can be through your credit card, through your PayPal, and others. If you're signing up during checkout, you'll fill a small application right at the checkout screen. It may ask for information like your name, address, date of birth, email address, social security number, and phone number. It may also ask you for a payment method. With that information, the BNPL provider would do quick soft credit check, which does not affect your credit, and then quickly approve or deny your BNPL application. Some of the largest BNPL services are Affirm, Afterpay, Klarna, PayPal Credit, and Zip. The BNPL services typically work with retailers and are offered at checkout, both in online websites as well as brick and mortar stores. Though Buy Now, Pay Later can be a smart, low-interest way of breaking up an expense, you're still taking a debt, and that can be dangerous as there are risks involved. Again, on paper, it sounds like an excellent scheme that adds to the convenience of the consumer. But the problem lies in who gets offered BNPL and who uses BNPL. Chapter 2. Who is using BNPL? According to a June 2023 survey from the New York Fed, about 64% of the survey respondents have been offered BNPL sometime in the near past, and about 19% overall and 29% of those who were offered BNPL actually used it as a method of payment. Since 2019, BNPL has grown 300% in the US in just 2 years, reaching 45 million active users by 2021. BNPL accounts for 2.4% of online retail payments in the US and is expected to continue growing. Here is where it gets interesting. The percentage of Gen Z users using BNPL has grown from just about 6% in 2019 to 36% in 2021. Six-fold increase. When millennials' use of BNPL has doubled from 2019 to 41% in 2021. This growth of BNPL among the younger users is indicative of a near future where BNPL is just not an alternative method of payment but becomes a primary method of payment. According to a study done for Insider Intelligence, here are the top reasons why consumers are using BNPL. So I love the reason number 1 and 4 here. Avoid paying credit card interest rates. We all must do whatever we can to avoid these crushing interest rates. And number 4 is the category I love. They hate using credit card. That means they're using cash. So they were the smart consumers. But then why are they falling into the trap of BNPL? Check reason number 2. To make purchases that otherwise won't fit into my budget. Really? You should actually not be making that purchase before you can save for that. Then there is number 3. Borrow without a credit check. Sounds like a nice loophole, but it's very risky and it removes a big check that prevents an individual from borrowing much beyond their capacity. The main reason why BNPL is growing so fast is that it gives big retailers a way to solve a major business problem. How do we get low-income shoppers to spend more? They don't have credit cards or limits, as those might have already been maxed out. Here is what one of my recent podcast guests had to say about BNPL through PayPal credit.
I have another credit line with PayPal that I forget about because I couldn't pay at the time. I'm still paying it now. I just called me yesterday about a payment. I gotta pay by Monday.
Unfortunately, such offers of credits to unsuspecting low-income consumers is pretty much like offering free booze to somebody who is on his way to the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Though perfectly legal, it has the potential to harm the person. But we have all seen such offers of buying stuff even when we don't have money. Have you heard of credit cards? Yes, I have. But BNPL is different from the regular credit cards. And believe it or not, it can be worse financially. Chapter 3. Difference between credit cards and BNPL. There are three major differences between credit cards and the buy now pay later loans. First, while buy now pay later are lines of credits pretty much like credit cards, they do not impact credit scores. But because of this, shoppers might be less cautious while using BNPL services. Credit cards typically have annual rates of interest, the APRs, between 15 to 26%. Now, when it comes to buy now pay later loans, most of them of shorter durations have no interest at all. But here is the kicker. The BNPL loans, which have longer terms, often have much higher interest rates, as high as 37%. Shoppers are at risk of overusing BNPL and accumulate much more debt than they can handle. In addition, formal lenders like banks currently have no way to actually know how much BNPL debt a consumer is carrying. Thus, the lender may be ending up taking more risk than what they are allowed as per their internal guidelines or in regulatory guidelines. And they also are unable to perform their fiduciary duty as required by law to take care of the consumer, not allowing the consumer to harm himself or herself beyond a certain point. Secondly, credit cards typically provide an interest-free period, maybe around a month or less, after which a borrower must pay interest. Now, contrast with BNPL does not have interest for shorter periods, but they can have very high fees for late and missed payments. So falling behind on a payment on BNPL can actually result in those high fees, which can set you back much more than the interest rate on credit card. And low-income users are much more vulnerable to using BNPL to overdraft and pay for their expenses. Third, people typically have limited number of credit cards, making it easier for them to keep track of all the payments on these credit cards. BNPL users, on the other hand, typically engage with so many different BNPL providers through different retailers and their websites. As a result, it is difficult for them to keep track of all the different BNPL providers and retailers through which they made purchases, and they are on hook to make payments too. Wow! BNPL is increasingly looking riskier. Should we just avoid them like plague? Well, for majority of consumers, my recommendation would be to avoid BNPL when possible and pay in full for their consumer purchases. However, if you need to use BNPL, there are a few things that you need to be careful about. Chapter 4. How to evaluate BNPL. I'm going to give you a golden rule for any financial transactions. Don't sign up for anything that you don't understand. I've spoken to countless guests on my podcast who have car loans where they're not aware of the interest rate that they're paying, or even the outstanding amount left on the loan. Don't be that person. So before going for the convenient buy now, pay later loan, make sure you're clear on the following. First is the payment structure. How much of the invoice amount needs to be paid upfront? It's typically 25%. Next is how many more installments need to be paid. Again, typically it's 4. Finally, what is the frequency of paying these installments? It is either bi-weekly or monthly. But you must be very clear on all these requirements and see if you are able to make those payments as you're signing up. Second, very important, interest rate. Does the BNPL provider charge any interest rate on a normal, typical short-term BNPL offer? The answer typically is no. So if they're charging interest, say no to such offers. Third is late fees. So what is the late fee? When does this late fee apply? And is there a maximum amount for these late fees? Typically, these late fees cannot exceed either $8 or a quarter, like 25% of the invoice amount, that installment amount. Late fees should usually kick in if your installment remains unpaid after a certain number of days, usually 10 days, but find that out too. So those three are the three absolute basic requirements that you need to understand and know the answers for. In addition, you'll do better to inquire about this additional question as well. Data responsibility. Who is responsible for your financial data? Whether it's the retailer, the BNPL provider, that is the lender, or even the cloud provider whose services these BNPL providers are using, like Amazon. You should know that. In general, the BNPL provider is responsible for safeguarding your data. There is a risk that BNPL schemes would attract people who are already in financial difficulties and are having problems with their bills and payments. Over the past 2 years, 43% of the BNPL users made a late payment. But 2/3 of them claim that it was because they lost track of when that installment was due. And just 1/3 blamed it on a real lack of money. This aspect of BNPL that depends on customers' negligence to make money through late fees has to change. Hopefully, big responsible players and regulators will ensure that the consumers are not taking advantage of. BNPL is actually a good option for smart and savvy customers. It can be viewed as another option, just like credit cards. And just like credit cards, you can either use them smartly or abuse them and get drawn into financial difficulties. Let me know if you have used BNPL and what are your thoughts on this. If you like this video, you should check out this other video of mine. And I will also appreciate if you can give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. See you soon.